bringing you the news and information you need from the people making a difference. This is Comcast Newsmakers.
I'm glad you could join us. We're at the LGBT Center in San Francisco on Market Street. Masen Davis is our guest. He's Executive Director of the Transgender Law Center, and I'm finding out more about this and about the definition of transgender. So we'll just continue with our conversation.
Sure.
The kind of people you get involved with are people who either have gone through the transition from male to female to male, or whatever, but others also.
Yeah, if somebody experiences some type of bias due to their gender identity, the way they feel about themselves, or their gender expression, the way they look, oftentimes we'll be able to provide some sort of support.
And when you say bias, you're talking about a workplace?
It really runs the gamut. We talk to people who experience high levels of discrimination and harassment in workplace. We also hear from youth who are experiencing challenges in schools. And we work with a lot of people as well who are having some sort of challenge accessing basic, primary, or transition-related health care.
Okay, I would imagine for teenagers, this can be a very, very traumatic time.
Yeah, we find that harassment against transgender students is incredibly high still in our public schools and private schools. California has some great laws to make sure that all students are safe and are able to learn, but we find that a lot of schools and districts still need help with good policies and practices to make sure that transgender and gender non-conforming students are treated well.
Yeah, for a student who is going through, maybe just through puberty, going through, schoolwork, is going through all these kind of things and wondering about themselves, it's got to be an extremely difficult time.
Well, I don't know about you, but I remember school as a challenging time just in general, for almost any year.
I still am having a, yeah.
I still have nightmares about my junior high years. But especially for
two of us, by the way.
Especially for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender students, as they're coming to terms with who they are, to do that in the midst of puberty, and especially when they experience bias or harassment from other students or sometimes even teachers, makes it really, really difficult. Yeah. So we want to make sure we create environments where people can learn and be themselves as they're growing up. And sometimes it's really helpful for a youth to know that they've got an adult to talk to, whether that's somebody in the school, somebody in a GSA, or sometimes an attorney, where they can bounce off ideas and see what they might be able to do in their schools to improve their situation.
Yeah, and it occurs to me too, Masen, that they might not be getting the support at home, so they need someone else to supply the support. The idea of workplace discrimination, of course, is pretty obvious. When that does happen, and somebody finds themselves maybe notes on their desk or that kind of thing, how do you get involved with a company? Let's say it's company X, and the employee from company X comes to you and said, at work I'm getting all these subtle things all the time, or leaving notes, or I'm really uncomfortable. How do you deal with that?
Well, I believe most workplaces want to do the right thing, but sometimes they don't know what that is or what that looks like. Unfortunately, we did a survey a couple of years ago and found out that 67% of the transgender people we talked to in California still experience discrimination or bias in the workplace. So we know this is a big issue. We want to make sure that we create environments where everybody can succeed and nobody has to choose between their gender and their job. So that can range from providing basic tips for transgender people who might be transitioning at work to let them know what's been successful for other people. That can be working with companies to make sure they've got have good corporate policies that support transgender people in the workplace. And sometimes that means filing some sort of complaint if an issue goes unaddressed, to make sure that the transgender person can stay at work safely and productively.
Yeah, what is really the biggest problem, the most common kind of problem that you would deal with?
Well, we hear a lot of complaints about employment discrimination. That is certainly one of the most far-reaching issues impacting transgender people. We found that transgender people in the state are twice as likely to live under the poverty line and twice as likely unemployed, even when education rates are high. So we've got to grapple with that issue as a community. We also hear that a lot of people have a hard time finding a decent doctor to work with them if they're transgender. And unfortunately, a lot of insurance companies still include some type of specific exclusion that mean that many of us can't access care. So we've got to improve those things.
Masen, nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Masen Davis has been our guest. He's Executive Director of Transgender Law Center. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.